Hi, Tim Sells here. In this series of videos, I'm talking about what prevents somebody from becoming a rep. This particular video is they're not looking at economic reality, all right? And so this is the third part in a series that I'm talking about here. And what I'm going to go into here is that prospects need to understand when situations change, reevaluation is a must. When you see a graph that looks like this, and this is 1960 and this is 2021, it's time to reevaluate. You got to take a look, all right? So what this is this is from Fred, having to do with the feds and the amount of money that was pushed into the economy, all right? So you look at this very... It could have been big if this hadn't happened, but it was just a gradual increase, and then all of a sudden, boom, it goes straight up, right? In 2020, and I would dare say it's gotten even higher. So what does this do? Causes inflation. You see, the Federal Reserve, who loans the federal government money, has toggles, right? So like if you just think about sitting in a car, you got a blinker over here and you got your windshield wipers and you got knobs, right? And so the Fed Reserves has the ability to fiddle with some of those knobs. And one of the things that happens is inflation. And certainly when it's 5 times more money in circulation, then, wow, that's going to cause some damage. So let's talk about it. I know a lot of people get sort of like drowsy when they hear the word inflation. And so let me just make it real simple. If this month you got a gallon of milk and it costs, I don't even know what a gallon of milk costs, but just because I don't shop. And let's say it's, I don't know, $4, I don't know. And then 6 months from now, then that's going to be, I don't know, $5.50, $4.50. Then the amount of that increase is called inflation. And a lot of people are very unaware of the damaging effects that it does to their purchasing power. When you look across everything that you buy, and you say, wow, you know, I'm just not being able to buy as much stuff as I used to. Well, that's the situation, right? And so it goes all the way across from building supplies to gas to oil to anything that you can purchase. It inflates the price, okay? And it's always the case. It typically ran at, I don't know, I guess about 3% or so a year. And so let's take a look at the some of the stuff. So this is the costs of container shipment. Okay, so people manufacture, let's say, some stuff over in China, and they're going to put it onto a freight ship and ship it over to America. All right. So all along since 2011, for the last 10 years, it's been right around this price category here, $2,000. It suddenly jumps up to $10,000 per container. Do you think that's going to add price to your loaf of bread? Yeah, it is. How about gasoline prices? So this is in 2020 in July, and this is in 2021 July. And it's up 46% increase. That's a whole lot more than 3% increase a year. So it's 46% in 12 months. True cost of gasoline. Now, this is not necessarily talking about inflation. This is, I want you to get an idea of something. So when you look at the gas prices as of 12 July 2021, this is the actual price, Venezuela is paying 2 cents a gallon, 2 cents. Okay, and this is sorted so that the next would be Iran, next would be Angola, and so on. Okay, and over here, United States, it's 0.9 cents. Okay, so 92 cents a gallon. So why is it that when you look over here at these numbers were captured, I think it was on Memorial Day or 4th of July or something like that. And so I want you to just look at these numbers. $4 in California. Hawaii is $3.80. Nevada, $3.50. Washington State's $3.50. Oregon, $3.30. Utah, $3.33. And so on. Alaska, Illinois, Idaho, and Pennsylvania. So where did that extra come from? Well, okay, so some of it could be from shipping, if they have to ship it, right? So I think last year we were energy independent. So we did not have to purchase oil from somewhere else and have it tanked over or pipelined through, right? So that had a factor in it. What other things could have a factor in it? Well, negotiations. That could be another one. Different things are going to affect it, and this is the way that I begin to look at something over here having to do with perhaps the price is being jacked up because right now what's in the agenda is that let's make it like harm you if you keep buying oil and reward you if you get an electric car. Okay, so I kind of get an idea that the such a high move on this has to do with something like that. It's just an idea that I have. You don't have to have that same idea. All right, so lumber prices. Okay, so we're running along here, and then boom, right? Pretty incredible. According to Realtor.com, the typical home asking price hit another new high in May of 2021 by reaching $380,000. And so I did a video just last week that had to do with real estate agents and such, and the price was $225,000. So it's jumped up a lot. An increase of 15.2% compared to last year. All right. So this gives you a real understanding now. So if you spent $50,000 worth of lumber, how many houses could you build? In 2020, you could have built 10 homes and 1/20th of one of them. Okay, so a little bit. But today, you can build 2.1 houses. I hope this image gives you a good understanding and wrap your head around purchasing power. So when I talk about that a person's not looking at network marketing, and it's because they're not looking at reality, they think what they've been doing is going to be okay in the future. All right? And this does not show that at all. And you say, oh, we're just in this particular time frame. We'll see. Highest inflation in 13 years. The CPI has always been the standard that we've used, okay? And so that the people who are saying that it's higher than any other time in the last 13 years, okay? And so then they spotlight some categories. So you can see now why I made that statement that energy as a whole is up 24%. So that would be diesel, that would be all other types of fuels. And so that's the reason it made me say that. It's like that's sticking up a whole lot as an indicator to me. So, all right. So now I'm going to focus on that CPI for just a second. Calculations have changed, and you need to kind of know this. So the government has a few resources at its disposal to manipulate the CPI. First, the Bureau of Labor Statistics operates, in other words, that's where they get their statistics from, operates under a veil of secrecy. The raw data used to calculate the CPI is not available to the public. So we call that a hidden data. Okay, you can't find the truth. The raw data used to calculate the CPI is not available to the public. When I ask why, I was told so companies can't compare prices. This makes very little sense because companies can easily compare prices with data openly available on the internet, or just walking into a grocery store and saying, what's the price of that? What's the price of that? It also makes it impossible to audit their findings. Additionally, over the past 30 years, the government has changed the way it calculates inflation more than 20 times. These methodological improvements to the CPI are said to give a more accurate measurement of consumer prices. However, these changes could also be a convenient way to include or exclude certain products that give favorably low results. But there's no way to know given the lack of transparency. I'm bringing this to your attention because there are a group of people who, well, I'll show you. So they take the old way of doing it. This is the CPI right here, okay? And from the time they've changed the 20 times, right? So this has changed 20 times in the way. These guys have kept it with the old way, right? And so what this number shows, the CPI, is about 5% at the peak, and the average is around 3.5%. But what they show is that it's about 13 to 14% so far this year, and the norm is around 10%. So this is a group I really recommend you take a look, and that's shadowstatistics.com, and or shadowstats.com. So they do a really great job of keeping up with it. And then there's also, he's created a group of people who go into the grocery store and they buy things, and then they are constantly updating in different towns, and so they have created kind of their own computer price index, which is what CPI stands for, because that's all that it is. And you can do it for yourself. When you go to the grocery store, just, pick up an item, and a lot of times on the ticket, it'll say, like, if you put in, I don't know, a bushel of spinach, it'll tell you how much it is per ounce or whatever. And so keep those prices and then see what it is 6 months from now, see what it is a year from now. And then you will know in your area very specifically what is the inflation rate. Okay, so obviously if we have a 3% inflation on average, then we need to make more money just to stay even. Okay, so let's say that we had a bank account that was paying us 3% interest. Well, if we had all of our money in there, that would be cool. But we don't have anybody giving us 3% interest anymore. So that's out. And then it would be also great if we had a 3% increase in income every year. Okay, so I started looking at that and I factored that in here. Okay, so let me just read this to you. The average salary structure increase fell to the range of 1.3% to 1.6% in 2020 and is generally expected to stay the same through 2021. So now let's take a look at this. Let's say that you made $30,000 and you spent all $30,000 on stuff, okay? And the inflation rate is truly at 10% based upon that shadow stats. And so that means that if you spent $30,000, then in 10 years, you're going to need to have $77,000 to buy the same stuff. I want you to think about it from the standpoint of raising a family. I want you to think about it from the standpoint of retirement. I want you to think about it just as a long-term strategy on like what you're doing, how you're spending your money, and what business you're in, and does it have an ability to have a dynamic growth going on within it? And that is what network marketing brings to the table. Now, if we were to add a 3% pay raise a year, let's say that you have a job and you get a 3% pay raise, or you grow in network marketing at 3% per year, then you would basically have to, it's twice as much. So you have $30,000 you spent here 10 years later with 3% increases per year, you're going to have to basically create double the amount in order to live on the same stuff. Okay? Now, I got to show you this scenario because it's a real life scenario. So Venezuela in 2016 entered hyperinflation. Okay, so we have inflation, but it's kind of out of control. The inflation rate reached 274% in 2016. 863% in 2017, 130,000% in 2018, 9,500 in 2019. Since 2016, the overall inflation rate has increased 53 million%. And the reason I'm showing this to you is that they had a similar political situation at that time, way back then. Okay? It was a similar type of a scenario, not the same. It was just a typical kind of a move that we are seeing. And then thus-wise afterwards, these guys used to have an incredible economy. And so it really is saddening. 53,000. Now, I hope that doesn't happen here. That's going to be very expensive. There's another thing that's actually funny, and it's called shrinkflation. It's the size and weight of items are shrinking, but the cost is the same. So let's pretend that I buy this bottle of water and it costs $3, okay? But what they did is that they drained all the water out, but that much. That you could call, the water's right here. That you would call shrinkflation. But that would be very obvious. I pull it out and I look at it and I go, I don't want that. Okay, so typically it's right up to the top. But I've seen shrinkflation in toilet paper. I've seen shrinkflation in paper towels. So the paper towel used to be, this big and have a particular ounce weight. And then I see it as being almost like a quarter of it gone. And, the inside of the wrap is a whole lot faster to come off than the outside of the wrap. And so they're shrinking the product, but charging you the same. And they are being honest on the weight, but it's a bit unethical if you ask me. Okay, so shrinkflation. Dr. Shiva is a gentleman who ran for the Senate in Massachusetts, and he's an MIT PhD. He's got 3 degrees, very, very mathematically smart, as well as in engineering and such. And so he says that right now 25% of Americans are out of work. That's what he says, based upon what he, all the evaluations that he's done. He said there's 2 American pies. One is 5% and the other is 95%. The 5%, 600 billionaires doubled their wealth in the last year. In other words, during the pandemic. And 95%, the rest, squeezed since 1970. No real increase in income, inflation adjusted. And what I mean by inflation adjusted, in other words, when you account for inflation, true inflation, then they haven't gained anything since 1970. Okay? And that also fits with a gentleman by the name of Ray Dalio in my very, very early videos back 2.5 years ago or so, where he had shown that the data, when you say the average income of an American, if you were to pull down the top 5% and look at everybody, then the average income is going to run in and around like $35,000. Okay. So you've got unemployed people you've got discouraged workers. And what's discouraged workers? They can't get their old job back. And so basically the pandemic ended up giving business owners an opportunity to dismiss the people that they didn't want to get rid of. Okay. And then they're discouraged because they can't get that job back and they can't get a job. And so they stop filing for unemployment. And so now it's going to shift the unemployment numbers. So when the government reports unemployed, it's only the people who have applied. And if they stop applying, then it looks like, and everybody kind of assumes, oh, they got new jobs. No, they didn't. Not necessarily. They became discouraged workers. All right. And so then also there's some people who, if there is a particular thing mandated and they don't want that thing, then they don't want to go back to work with that. Okay. So those are some of the scenarios that I'm looking at. This guy has a great channel, and he's talking about, this is a lady that has a lot to do with real estate and such, and new reality. Wait, what? That's the way that I viewed this. I couldn't believe what I saw. And so the real estate market is really booming, right? And BlackRock is an organization that the Federal Reserve is partnered with, and BlackRock is going out and buying up houses, right? And so them and Invitation Homes, these two, purchased 15% of the nation's homes in the last quarter, 5 to 20% above the asking prices. And so they come along and they are purchasing it. Okay, so why would somebody want to do that? Why would the Federal Reserve want to take that money and then buy assets? Well, real assets don't depreciate so much as a dollar that's constantly getting hammered by inflation. Okay? And so that started to make sense to me, but it's like, wait a minute. It seems, I don't know, you just have to think that through as to how that could work. It's not a free market if taxpayers' money is what's going into the system as well, and then they're purchasing real estate, and it's going to drive the prices up. And I saw a very interesting couple of things here, which is I saw this entire series, and it was called You'll Own Nothing and You'll Be Happy. So America should be a nation of renters, and I saw that on a Bloomberg report. And I was like, what? So this is definitely changing, and 3 of the employees here are working inside of the Biden administration at the White House. And so they would actually have, they would probably have the knowledge and so forth. And so they're buying up. You have the media telling us that we should be a nation of renters. And so it kind of alerted me that if that doesn't work for you, from the standpoint of you don't want to be a renter, maybe you're 22 years old or something, 23 years old, and you want to start a family, and you want to be able to have a yard, and you want to be able to have this and that and own it and know that you own it and be able to fix it up when you want to and be able to do all of the things that home ownership provides. Maybe you want to have a particular house in an area, like I wanted to be in the mountains, near rivers and things like that. So what I'm doing is that when I started this video, I was telling you that you have to reevaluate when conditions change. And some people may have made a decision to be that doctor, to be that bus driver, to be that, whatever. And you can change that at any time. And when conditions like this, especially as severe as this, it might be a good time to reevaluate it and do it rapidly, okay? In terms of like decisions and getting to work. Okay, so I'm just going to add something to this. So this looks a little bit crazy, but let me just walk you through it so you really do understand it. And so obviously this spike is the pandemic. And so this is the number of unemployed filed, okay? So it peaked up here somewhere, let me guess, at 24 million people. All right, and then this begins to slide. It says there's a pink line here, but you can just barely see it, right? And so it's slid down and it's now running like this, okay? So I drew this line here and I drew this line here because this was the norm before. So we were sitting, let's say, at 7 million people. There's a gap of 3 million people. Get the idea here? So are those actually going to come back? Are we about to hit another scenario to where this spikes back up? We could. And that is what I'm wanting to have you guys take a look at. And so then pretty soon, if it's constantly spiked, then I believe that we're going to be in a bit of trouble. And so as a nation, in terms of recovering from that, both on the inflation basis as well as the number of unemployed. So anyway, it's just it's a way to take a look at it. And it kind of hits us at a time where we have a lot of debt. 80% of Americans are in debt, vulnerable to being controlled. Freedom matters. So people in debt, and what's the biggest debt? Well, it's their mortgage. Their student loans is second, auto loans is third, and then personal loans, credit cards runs about $5,000 on average. So all in all 80% make up $9.4 trillion of debt that people own. And that's going to be a real tough scenario for people. All right, it really is. And so I think that it would be an idea from do a business, okay? At least you'll be able to earn your own money, and so that you can increase your income, because normally salaried income, you can't get a lot fast. And when you're in the sales world, you can work at the speed you want to work at. You can build a sales team at the speed you want to work at. And that was my primary reason why that I wanted to be in network marketing, is because I was in the military and I would get paid an increase only when somebody above me moved out so that I could move up and get a pay raise. Okay? So just in summary, not looking at the economic reality, inflation 5 to 10%. Right now, what does the future hold? I hope we're not Venezuela. Fewer small businesses. There's been a great consolidation that's gone on. If you remember back when we had that necessary, or what was it that they called it when necessity? Essential. Okay, so I was just asking my cameraman to give me a tip here. So it was essential items. And so a lot of businesses got shut down because they weren't designated as essential, even though they were selling perhaps the same things that Amazon were, and Costco and Walmart, right? But those guys ended up making bank because of the consolidation of all small businesses. Unemployment, fewer jobs, and then there's debt, okay? And so this right here is when I say that there was a lot more businesses before, small businesses, that are no longer around. So tell me what you think here, right? So how has the economy or economic environment changed for you? Do you see that it's changed? And then tell me how so, right? So yeah, you can repeat some of the things that I said, but what are you experiencing? What is your neighborhood like? What is it like walking through the grocery store these days compared to 2 years ago? What's it like in terms of, the fellowship, the church, all of that kind of stuff? Tell me what you've seen. Thanks so much for watching.